This is Taiwan Talk.
This is Taiwan Talk on ICRT.
Thanks for tuning in to Taiwan Talk. I'm Eric Smith. Late last year, I had a chance to speak with Liu Ken Ming, who's also known by his English name of Ken, and also by his artistic name, Mr. Bighead. Ken spent 10 years in New York City, where he won awards for his creative designs in logos, computer graphics, and graphic design. But after returning to Taiwan, Ken has aligned himself with a growing number of people who are advocating what might be called Education 2.0, a re-examination of how we inspire children to learn. The reason Ken is rethinking education is because, as the designer told me, he didn't get many of his award-winning ideas from burying his face in books. In fact, one of his greatest inspirations were bugs.
My background is a little different. Yeah, my background was an entomologist.
Okay, so that means a person who studies bugs, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you know that. Like somebody didn't know. What's entomology?
Okay.
Study rock?
Bugs.
Yeah, it's
All right.
bugs.
So you love bugs.
Yes, I did.
You're fascinated by bugs.
Yeah. When I was kids, I remember like my mom, like one night, suddenly she's screaming. And then we say, "What's happened?" We turn on the lights, and my mother say, "Look, my feet. There's a plug.
A plug.
Yeah, plug.
Okay.
Like a electronic plug."
Right.
She said, "There's an electronic plug. Bite my feet."
Okay.
And my father said, "Oh, no, that's the beetles you feed." That's the beetles.
Oh, one of those stag beetles with the big
yeah,
claws.
that's the stage beetles.
It bit your mother.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm
so,
sure.
so it's my poor mother. Everywhere, the beetles everywhere in my house. I'm like really, really love beetles kids. You know.
And you see these insects as having a certain kind of design beauty in themselves. Is that right?
Exactly.
As you got older, you were looking at the contours and the lines and the design element to it and using that as inspiration for what would later become your career.
Yeah, exactly. Those are really inspire me for my animations. Even like their movement. Like in my animation, I have a lot like creatures in my animations, like butterflies, birds, spiders, beetles. I will add a lot of details, and those details are all my experience. Those knowledge give me a lot confidence. You know, I can use those beauty, like my experience, to create more animation different than others.
Right. And you recently gave a talk at one of the TEDx forums about the future of education. And I think one of the points that was being made by a lot of the speakers was that we do need to get children out of the classroom and out into the real world so that they can sort of get inspiration from more than just... Of course, book learning is important, right? You gotta know your facts and your math and your science and all that, but... inspiration may not come from a classroom.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. I feel like the forest and New York City is my school.
That's interesting because New York City is not a place of natural beauty, but it also has its own sort of beauty, yes?
Yeah, I mean, I use same way to explore this city as I explore the forest.
Okay.
I mean, I chasing those beetles. I like fighting those butterflies. I use same way to explore this city. I just change like the net become like camera. My habit is like pick up the old furnitures on the street in New York. It's the same way, you know. I like to find something different.
So what do you do with the old furniture after you pick it up?
I repair it.
Uh-huh.
Put it to my office. Put it in my studio.
And then something about this design of the furniture, the shape or the contour of it will inspire.
Exactly. It's the same way. I feel like if you have a lot of passions, that's the most important thing. You need to have passion.
Thanks for listening to Taiwan Talk. I'm Eric Smith. You can see Ken's work by visiting www.mrbighead.net. Join me tomorrow when I'll speak with a teacher who says the first step to improving society is reinventing our schools.
This is Taiwan Talk.
This is Taiwan Talk on ICRT.
I'm Eric Smith, and you're listening to ICRT's Taiwan Talk. Jen Lin is a certified Chinese teacher at the Zunyi School for Innovative Learning Experience in Taidong. Taiwan's first alternative education junior high school. As part of a series on the education of the future, I spoke with teacher Lin by phone, and she told me how, after earning her teaching license, she'd search for local schools that took a less stifling approach to teaching. Such schools do exist in Taiwan, she explained, but they are the exception to the rule. Teacher Lin explained her personal belief that self-motivation and self-discipline are the real tools that inspire learning.
I was a teacher in the formal educational system. At that time, I was thinking if there would be another choice for another kind of school. So actually in Taiwan, I really searched for such kind of school. During some years in that kind of alternative educational school, I learned very different view of about education, holistic education, democratic education.
What does
different.
holistic education mean for people who don't understand that term? Holistic education.
I think the main idea is that to let students learn from the basic knowledge, and they can practice. They can have their practical skills, and they can have a whole views with more objective insight to sense the whole world and the things which happened around themselves. They can have a right to learn what they want.
Okay, so this is interesting. Does this mean that perhaps if you find a student who is very, very good at science but very, very bad at, say, math, then you help that student focus on the things that they're good at? Is that kind of what we're talking about?
Yeah. If the students have more motivation on some specific subject, and they can just continue it, and we just support a lot of resource. And try to guide them toward this kind of a direction. But on the other side, for the other subjects, if they are not good at that time, we just wait, but not force them to learn.
Right. So do you feel that schools in Taiwan right now put too much focus on forcing students to memorize, and when what we should be doing is trying to find what the student is really good at? Yeah. Indeed, and unfortunately, once I come back to the normal educational system, 10 or 20 years pass by, but still the educational system nowadays in Taiwan society is still like this. They still try to force the students to learn the whole knowledge that they should have, but in fact, maybe sometimes they are not useless knowledge, actually. Teachers didn't really give them useful skills to learn. Right.
So what I want to say, like a holistic education means like we want students to really be a holistic student, which means that they can just, they can know the basic knowledges, but they can know how to use those knowledges to practice in their life, and they can really have a whole view to know the world and how those things going on.
Yeah.
So that should be the skills that teachers should teach to them. But nowadays in Taiwan society, it's somehow separate. It's like the life and the knowledges are totally separate.
Interesting.
And we just teach the knowledge just to pass the exams better and to get the higher degree.
Thanks for tuning into Taiwan Talk. I'm Eric Smith. All of our episodes are available on iTunes or on the ICRT website.